Thanks everybody for coming to How We Listen Live. The knowledge to move your music forward. And we have a set format for these events, which we do monthly. And so this is the agenda. What I do is I do this quick little talk about beta, what beta is for people who've never been before. Then I talk a bit about how we listen. Because everybody, you come to these events called How We Listen, we do loads of things around that. So we explain a little of the background around that and why we do it. Then we do announcements about upcoming events or things that we're doing that we're participating in or different stuff like that. So it's easy for you all to know what's up. And then second part is our conversation with Obinna from Horus Music. So for you who haven't met me before, my name is Mark Brown. I'm the founder and CEO of beta. This is a Canadian accent. I lived in the UK for years, and then now I live in Stockholm, Sweden. And as I say every time I do this talk, this little intro, or well, I do it in most talks actually, I think it's super important when you're listening to people speak, that you get a vibe on what their background is and what their perspective is, so you can sort of figure out if what they're saying makes sense based on what they know and where they come from. So I started at a small independent record label in Canada back in the mid-90s, pre-internet. Then I moved to the UK. I worked in A&R at a label called Trybe Records, which was one of, if not, well, yeah, no, one of the most important indie labels of the last 30 years in the UK. I left there. I worked in another smaller label where I started doing radio promotion, which is trying to get records on the radio. And then I left there and I started my own radio and TV promotion company called Four. And my job was to go into radio stations in the UK and convince them to play records. So artists would hire me, or managers, or record labels. And I would do that both for radio and a bit of TV, trying to get book bands on TV when that kind of stuff used to be important. Then around the time that I moved from the UK to Sweden, I had this idea for beta. And it was sort of in the transition from analog to digital, where starting working in music promotion, you'd actually send out physical CDs in jiffy bags through the post. And that transition to digital for people, as you all know, working in and around music has been far from smooth. So that's where the idea for beta came from. But for maybe some of you that don't know, what is beta? Well, beta is the platform that enables sending and receiving of digital audio in a clean, simple, and secure way, built for everyone working with music today. And what does that mean? In short, fast and secure audio sharing. And so what makes beta unique is that we take advantage of audio files' unique properties. And some people know a lot about audio files, other people don't know as much. So the way I explain it is that audio files ultimately have three unique features compared to other files. One is metadata. So beta reads and writes audio file metadata. So when you upload a track to beta, it pulls out all the information in the track, the artist name, the track name, the album title, the number of tracks, and displays it on the screen so you can make sure that that information is correct. So what you see on the screen is actually what's embedded in the files. And we do that for all file types, including WAV files. We're basically the only platform that does that. The next is file format and audio quality. So unlike other file types, there are different types of audio files. So they can be lossy or lossless. And what we do is we enable a user to upload a file in one file format, confirm that metadata, and then share that same file, or share in different file formats with the click of a button, or send stream only. And then the last point is that streaming, while very important and unique to audio and video files, what we offer is secure streaming, which means you can't rip the links. So everybody knows about stream ripping, I hope. Well, we actively prevent that, meaning that you can't rip our links. And so what is our sort of goal? Like, what are we trying to do? What is our mission statement? We present our mission statement this way. BITA's goal is to provide artists and their teams with the tools and the knowledge to move their careers forward. So how do we do that? First one's pretty simple. BITA is a tool for sending and receiving digital audio. Easy. But the second, the knowledge, comes from this idea of how we listen. And what's that? Well, How We Listen started out as an interview series where online, a standard 10, 12 questions, where BITA would interview people about how they find, listen, and experience new music. And one of the reasons we started this series, this was about 4 years ago, was that we became very frustrated by the fact that a lot of the time in the press, you'd read about how the streaming platforms were saying, oh, well, listen, don't worry, just upload your audio to whatever streaming platform, and the algorithm will get it to the right people. Or, as a lot of you know, it's all about playlists, supposedly. And so this idea, oh, well, you just get on this playlist, no problem whatsoever. That's all you need to do. And we know those things to be, they're not true. You know, they're just marketing ploys in a way. And so there's a lot more to it. And we wanted to highlight that people find and listen and experience music in different ways. And so what I like to do at the start of every one of these events is I sort of like to talk about a couple of the quotes that have come through that Jamie on our team picks out, because there's lots of great insights and we want to just pass these insights on to people. And so Haruka in Japan, she says, from a listener's perspective, streaming is very convenient. But if you were the artist, it could be heartbreaking to learn that your music is easily skipped or shuffled. And this is something I didn't think of at that point. I appreciate vinyl because they aren't convenient. It reminds me of how much effort was put into producing the music. And so this is the kind of insight that people need to think about. Streaming is convenient, but there are other people that are looking for a more, like a slower, more in-depth experience. And Haruka's quote definitely, supports that. And this quote from Mandy, I think we had it in last month, actually, because it is brilliant and it speaks to this whole thing about metadata. Every time my music is about to be released, and everybody's had this problem, that's why I love this quote. Every time my music is about to be released or on release day, something always happens whereby either my name or some metadata is wrong, and my team has to scramble and email all the different platforms or the distributor to change it. And it's like classic, but it just goes to show that you can't double check stuff enough, but that it's important for search, credits, everything. Good metadata, very important. Now, another series we have is we've got How We Listen. This quote is from Method to My Music, which is another more artist-focused series we do. And then the third series we started running last year was where we get someone who's a friend of BITA, who is probably on the more professional side of the business, so on the business side of the music ecosystem. And we get them to write an article about what they perceive to be a challenge in their area that they work in. And so this article's actually had quite a lot of attention. And I'm going to say his name wrong, I've been practicing, but Umedi from Medundo, I think I'm saying that wrong, but he wrote this article on stream farming in Nigeria's music ecosystem. And here's a quote that I think is pretty good, and I think we can sort of dovetail into a conversation about this later. In an ever-dynamic market like Nigeria, where 100+ tracks, and I need to make a note of this because 100+ tracks doesn't sound like that many, where 100+ tracks are released weekly, competition is intense to top the charts and to get the desired recognition, which fuels the artist's ego and their careers. Some labels artists opt for the quick fix and to use stream farming, which in theory, I totally get, like people want to get a jump start. The continued use of this approach sooner or later discredits the chart positions as fake, which in turn detrimentally affects the artists, their teams, and the labels engaged in this practice. In the long term, it just does not work, which I totally agree with. So Jamie, do you want to throw that link in the chat? Well, I'm sure you've thrown all three in the chat, but so then how we listen live, like what's sort of the goal with this? Well, basically the deal is that, you know, we do these articles online, we post them every week or monthly, we do a lot of written content, but we started to realize like a couple years ago, it'd be sort of fun to get someone on and talk to them in a different way and to be able to exchange questions. The chat in these events is always really good. So we thought this was the best way to do it. It's fun to be on Zoom. It's fun that everybody gets to see each other. We have people who come every month. And it's just a really positive environment to exchange information. So that's what's best about the chat, is that while I'm talking to people, there are people in the chat exchanging other information and getting involved. And that's a lot easier than just reading an article or listening to a podcast. So that's why we do it. It's a great way to exchange knowledge, and it's really fun. What I think is also important to remember, everybody who participates in these events does it for free. There are no speaker fees. So in turn, what we do is we donate some money to an organization in London called Maytree, which is a safe place for people who are feeling suicidal. And it's very important to me. It's important to our company. And of course, mental health is very important in all aspects of life, but specifically in music, it's a subject that gets discussed more and more. So take a screenshot of that, or if you have an organization in your area, throw some money their way. It's always appreciated. This is my site if you ever want to get a hold of me, visnomics.com. I'm redoing it. I've been saying that every month since these events are recorded. You've probably heard me say this for the last 6 months. But that's how you can get a hold of me. If you have any questions, we have a Facebook group where we post sort of stuff about upcoming events and stuff that's happening. So if you like Facebook for getting that kind of information, that's the link you want. YouTube channel is where you can watch the videos again. So the way it works is you sign up to an event, you either come or you don't come. A couple days later, you get a link to the audio on Beta so you can listen to it that way. Then I think it's a week after that, the audio goes up on YouTube. So if you like seeing my lovely background and seeing people interact on YouTube, like I watch everything on YouTube, you can watch it there. But then also after that, we post everything on as a podcast without this part at the start, edited podcast on all your, what's the standard line? On all your favorite podcast platforms. So wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find it there. So just search for How We Listen or Beta. This is fun. New announcement. I don't know if anybody knows anything about Music Brains. Jamie, maybe you can post a link. These people are the metadata gurus as far as I'm concerned. I've been friends with the guy, Robert, who runs it for ages. It's a big, huge database, probably the biggest of music database, and they're super smart, they're super nerdy, they know their metadata, and they're writing a series of articles for us. And I think the way it works is there's one every month. It's been announced, which probably means it's coming, the first one's coming in May. So keep an eye out for those. They're going to be super interesting to read. And then as we do every time, at this event, I announce the next event, and Jamie posts a link in the chat. So in conversation with May who does A&R at Ninja Tune, Big Daddy and Just Isn't Music, which is a London label, who I think was started by Cold Cut. Is that who it is? Anyway, they're here next month. That's going to be super fun as normal. Always check the times, because depending on who is speaking, we sort of move the times around. So keep that in mind. And then lastly, if you ever need to get a hold of me, I like LinkedIn and Insta, but you can always email me. But if you hit me up on Insta, Visnomics there, or on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect, especially if you don't have many connections. I'm always good to get the ball rolling with that. Build a little credibility. And that's all I've got. Obinna, are you there somewhere? Oh, there you are. Hello. How are you? You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell everybody where you are?
I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, that's where I am.
So we're quite far from each other here, me and Stockholm. So, and can you just tell us, give us one line about where you work and what your company does, just so everybody has an idea right out of the starting gate.
Okay. I work for Horus Music. We're a music distribution company and label services company. And our HQ is in the UK, Leicester City in the UK. And we have other offices. We have offices in India, the Asian market, and then there's Horus Music Brazil for the Latin American markets, you know, and Horus Music Nigeria for the Nigerian and larger African markets. So Horus Music Nigeria started in 2020, but the larger company has been in existence for 17 years now. You know, big shout out to our CEO, Mr. Nick Dunn. Yeah, that's a visionary. So yeah, and I've recently joined Horus Music from Boomplay, where I was Artiste Relations Manager. Yeah, we are passionate about working with new artists because we understand how lonely that journey can feel. So we're looking to offer service that wraps its arms around the artist more and offer way more support than merely getting the music onto the platforms and getting playlist pitches, you know. So we're looking to deliver a more wholesome distribution service to artists.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna talk a bit about that, and I also we're gonna talk a lot about Nigeria, I hope. But like, explain how, like, sort of quickly, like where you started, and then how you ended up at Boomplay, and then how you ended up at Horus. Because most people on these calls and stuff are always interested to learn how a short version of people's journey.
Yeah. It's funny, I heard you talk about your media, your radio business, being a plugger and all of that. So I actually did a lot of radio plugging in my early days. And funny enough, I didn't see anybody do it, but I just felt like it's got to be somebody who is helping the artist, or who can help artists get their music onto the radio stations, onto the TV stations, you know. And so I started to develop those relationships with OAPs and TV people. And of course, everything still stems from my love for music. So I really started knowing these people because I love radio as a medium, you know. And to digress a little, that is why podcasting, you know, that's why I find podcasting to be very relatable to my person, because I love the audio format. And yeah, so but I started out doing radio blogging, and then I got into management. I didn't know so much, but I just had the fire in me, and I happened to meet an artist at the time who I thought was incredibly gifted, and the world deserved to hear him. And that just inspired me to go on and just take on the role. And so I got into artist management from there. And, you know, I've worked with so many artists over the years, and consulted for a lot of record labels and other entertainment companies. Some years ago, I worked as A&R for a company called Trybe Records, Trybe Records. So that was a label owned by a legendary Nigerian artist called LD the Don. You know, so he's into tech now, not music anymore. But yeah, so that was fun. And I worked with Chocolate City years ago as well. So and so many artists, you know, and so many I've worked in different capacities over the years. Yeah, so and just leading up to when I joined Boomplay, I mean, the role just felt natural to me because I'm coming from a place where I understand what the artist wants and I understand what the expectations of the manager is or the expectation of the label. You know, so being in a place where I have to cater to these needs and try to sort them out and support them, the Artiste Relations Manager role at Boomplay just felt right, you know, for me. It almost felt like I'd been preparing for the role all my life. And
yeah,
and my role now at Horus Music is more so that, you know, because now as a distributor, you're working with artists, you're buying into their vision, you're speaking to managers all the time, and I feel so at home with it because I'm literally talking to a manager, and I am still a manager even with my job, you know. So I'm still a manager, so I understand the expectations of the artist, I understand the worries of the artist, I understand how lonely the journey can feel. So that is what makes it easy for me to, you know, put myself in a position to offer more for the artists because it's a really tough journey. So I guess after doing my personal hustle for so long and running around on the streets or hustling on the streets, you know, going corporate is like what is next for me. And companies are always looking for experienced hands, passionate hands, and you know, this is where I am now, you know, and I'm loving it.
Cool. Okay, like so because this is interesting. I like how you say that, oh yeah, I've had all these jobs, but I'm basically just serving artists. You know what I mean? Like I've had many different jobs, but I've had the same job the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, so because one of the things we talked about when we spoke last week was you, and I think this is sort of ties into that article in that I was talking about in Digital Dialogue about stream farming. Like, explain what artist development's like in, especially in Nigeria. You were saying that people want to move way more quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big, that you were comparing it to say something like in Europe or in North America. Do you want to talk a bit about that for people who maybe don't know?
Yes, I definitely want to speak about it. And it's interesting to me because I find that these are very economic reasons, you know, or economic outcomes, because you find that people don't have the time, you know, or the patience to put in the work that it's going to take to develop their music, because it's like life is literally coming at you every second. So you don't have the luxury of taking time and just chill and just working on your music, you know. So it's not a lot of people who are picking up instruments. It's not a lot of people who are doing vocal trainings. It's not a lot of people who are taking dance classes, you know, all these things. So you find that superstars or stars develop right in front of the eye of the public. You know, like you see people who break into prominence getting their stagecraft right in front of you, or fine-tuning their recording or fine-tuning their sound as they go. And ideally, these are the developments that should be done outside of the eyes of the public. So I find that people are not able to put in the time because there's just no time for that. And it's like the environment doesn't have patience for that level of diligence as well. You need to get it, and you need to get it now. And so part of the downsides of that is that people really put out music hoping that the first song they put out blows up, but the truth is it might be the 10th one, it might be the 100th one, so that is what I find.
Okay, so do you think that are there any advantages to this, impatience? Like, in the sense, do you think it maybe creates a better relationship between the artist and the fans? That, because like you're saying, if there's a bit more maybe money around or time, people hone this mystique in the background and then present it to the public. But the way you're explaining it is this: it's like, here it is. It's not right yet, but maybe in 2 weeks it will be. Is like, so does that create more of a vibe in some ways? Or do you think it's just a negative thing that people aren't, they're out there doing things before they're ready?
I mean, I think the marketplace is the marketplace, and people expect to get the very best from the shelf every time. So yes, we understand that you are trying to figure it out, but they also expect that you should have gotten it right way before you presented the product. So I find that if you do not consistently work on getting the product right, and you just stay stuck, it can eventually create a disconnect where people feel like the buzz of your music is greater than your presence, or is greater than your perception, or your stagecraft, or your presentation, or how you speak, and all of that. So it can really be problematic. But for some artists who are lucky to have great teams, and some artists are visionaries themselves, so they're able to come up with these things and just work on it and perfect it right in front. But for some people, they are just never able to develop the product beyond a certain point, and it ends up being a problem. For some, it shows up in ways where they are not able to sustain the hits that they've made. They're not able to sustain the buzz. Or some people are so popular and they have big songs, and then you watch them on stage and you feel like, wow, I need my money back. So when people feel that way about an artist 4 times, 5 times, it gets to a point where they're no more excited to even see the person on stage at all.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting that the artists are they want to move fast, and then the audience is saying, well, if you want to move fast, you're going to have to deliver. And I think it sounds like it creates a level of excitement, which I think is if everybody's waiting around, I want to see a perfect artist and I want to be the perfect artist, maybe things don't get done. So I think it's an interesting dynamic. So, like, can we talk a bit about how it is? See, let's use Nigeria as example. Like what is like the infrastructure? I was surprised by that article. It's how many tracks are released a week, do you think, in Nigeria? Way more than 100, right?
A lot of tracks. Yeah. I mean, and like from my just from my time at Boomplay, and Boomplay being a major player in the streaming scene on the continent. I mean, every song that is on, at least in recent times, every release that goes on Spotify, goes on Apple Music, goes on Boomplay as well. So it's a good way to say how much tracks are coming out. So for the rest of Africa, sometimes you find that the other offices of Boomplay, maybe in East Africa or some other place, maybe they're not so busy because it's just not a lot of releases. But in Nigeria, it's a lot of artists who are trying to make music, a lot of passionate young artists. Like, the one thing we do not have in Nigeria right now is a lack of talent and willingness to put out music. So I like to think it's very different from other parts of the continent, really.
Okay, so you've got a lot going on there, but then, like, is South Africa where the music business has been traditionally? And so they've had like a well-developed music business for decades, or like?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the music business, South Africa's music business is very, 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 very advanced, you know. So all the big labels, even the big movie production houses, you know, like these are the type of partnerships that you see in other countries, even like Nigeria, and they are hugely celebrated. But these companies have been in South Africa for 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, you know. So yeah, the structure wise, the South African music industry is definitely a much advanced one than ours, but we're catching up.
Like, but you remember we were talking about, I think it was like we used Fela Kuti as an example, like that sort of back then, like, you know, 60s, 70s, what was the situation that labels would sort of do A&R in the sense that they'd check out what's going on, find an artist that was good, and then not really invest in the local infrastructure. It was more, oh, this artist works for our label, we can take them back to North America and make them, or Europe, and make them more popular there. Or, so that's one part of it. But then is the other part that over the last 30 years have people from, say, Nigeria or East Africa, for example, have they felt forced to go to South Africa to become popular because they believe that the music business is there? Does that make sense? Like,
yes, that makes sense. But music wise, South Africa has never offered huge potentials for scaling or for growth for a Nigerian.
okay.
You know, so we're usually targeting the US or the UK, you know, and Nigerians are everywhere in the world, which is another factor that that has greatly helped Afrobeat's huge success now, because Nigerians are everywhere and we are very flashy and we're very proud of ourselves and our music. So it's only a matter of time before this whole wave came. So yeah, but South Africa, I mean, South Africa definitely has some contribution, you know, and like years ago, I remember video production was at a certain level, you know, and then ambitious artists in Nigeria started to say, it appears these South African guys make better videos because their videos look really good and we want to, you know, play at that level. And so a lot of Nigerians started to go to South Africa to make videos, and that became so huge that it almost became like another industry of its own. You know, I'm sure in exchange, millions of dollars happened in years just off of Nigerian artists or Nigerian labels going to South Africa to make videos. You know, so and that quality helped to push our music further as well. You know, so until Nigerians started to figure out how to do it in Nigeria using, you know, top-notch equipment. But yeah, in that way, South Africa definitely, you know, contributed in some way.
Okay, because that's also sort of what I mean. Like, if traditionally on the continent, like South Africa had a lot of the knowledge and was the center, where were Nigerians looking for their to learn things? Do you know? Because I think that is also quite a common problem, isn't it? That people want to do things, but they don't know how to do them. Like, they haven't met anyone who's been a superstar. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so what was it that not did people who made music in Nigeria, they thought, oh, I'm going to look to other places. I'm going to look to Europe, or I'm going to look to the US. We don't want to waste our time in South Africa. Is that what it was, really? That,
I mean, you have to give it to the Nigerians. Nigerians are very resourceful. Nigerians are very resilient, you know. So we're like, we have to figure it out. We have to find a way to push this thing, because it almost feels like a ceiling after some point, and you're like, wow, we need to get beyond this. I mean, after the South Africa wave, Nigerian artists started to want more and started to get more ambitious, and then, you know, we left South Africa and started to make videos in Hollywood, in Monaco, in different exotic parts, working with big directors, you know. So I think that says a lot about the spirit of the Nigerian, and that resilience is part of why we are enjoying this success right now. Yeah, but I also find that over the years, there's been a lot of capacity building across board, from the video production side to audio. Although I still feel like, you know, a lot more work could be done within the audio. I don't like that in Nigeria right now, the idea of what a studio is just like the most minimal setup. But then again, the upside of this is that we are not waiting for perfect situations before we make music and put it out, you know? So,
yeah. It's get it done, get it out there.
Just get it done. Yeah.
So, okay, like you said, you were a radio plugger, and was there, this is, I'm assuming, a handful of years ago, right? Like, but did you say there were no radio pluggers at that time, or were people not really doing that in Nigeria?
People were not really doing it at the time, you know, and it was for some time, it was very profitable, you know, for me. Yeah, people weren't really doing it at the time. But I think there was this other company that introduced something fresh and beautiful within that space. It was a company called Hype Nigeria. And what Nigeria would do is they would meet a lot of artists who have new music and want to put it on radio. And so they have all the songs on a compilation and it's on a CD. And then they build relationships with radio people and they just hand that CD to the radio stations. So it means Victor, who was the owner of the company, is able to do more with one edition of his promo pack than I'm able to do, because I'm going to push one artist at a time. But he's able to have like more people on a CD, and then the radio people can then decide who they like or who they don't like. So Hype Nigeria was very interesting addition. But it wasn't really a thing then. Yeah, so
okay, so if it was, because when I was a radio plugger, like there's a tradition of, oh God, 50, 60 years of it in the UK or whatever. But like, are there, so tell me how it over the last 10 years, because I'm also interested about Boomplay, because I don't know a lot about it. So over the last 10 years, if we rewind to what's it now, 2023. So like, you know, 10 years ago, how were people finding music? Were they listening to the radio? And then like, what has changed over the last 10 years, and why is Boomplay popular when there are all these other platforms? Do you see what I mean? Like, one of the fascinating things about radio promotion is that for a long time, that was the way people heard you. It turned a record that people liked into a huge record. So I'm always curious about what were the parts of the Nigerian music business or ecosystem that people drifted towards to find new talent?
Okay. I mean, radio was more relevant, more bigger than it is now. And radio is still big because sometimes we're too busy being shielded in our digital world that we forget it's quite a lot of people who haven't caught on to technology, and they still rely on traditional means to get information, like TV and radio, you know. So but back then it was radio, you know. But over the years, you asked what has changed. It's simple. What has changed is streaming. Music streaming has changed everything, you know. And so for the Boomplay one, I mean, Boomplay started out as one of the the sub companies of a larger company in Africa who market phones, you know, who make phones and market phones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so initially Boomplay would come pre-installed on low-end Android phones. And so that was how the penetration grew. And over time, the product improved too. And some other people started to like it for just being a good service, you know, but that's pretty much Boomplay's success story, you know. They got into the markets using pre-installed low-end Android phones, you know, penetrated the whole of Africa, while the other guys are busy with the iPhones and the high-end Samsungs. It's a lot of people who just want to get the affordable Androids, and boom, Boomplay is on there, you know. And so over time, the popularity grew and just expanded. Yeah.
Because we had a guy named Bruno from TuneCore from Brazil, and he was telling us the same thing about how a lot of the success of streaming services was tied to mobile phone contracts there as well. And so that kind of stuff is super interesting. But like, would you say that Boomplay is more in tune with the local market than, say, a Spotify or an Apple Music? Or do you think they're now sort of all in the same?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they're more in tune, but perhaps they have better penetration, especially within the African markets. Because in a place like Nigeria, Boomplay definitely has massive competition in Apple Music and Spotify, because Nigerians also like, you know, top great products like that as well. But in other parts of Africa, some people's introduction to the concept and the technology of music streaming is Boomplay. So that is what they know. That is how they got into it. That is how they got to a place where they even understand and appreciate the technology. So there are parts of Africa where Boomplay is all it is, you know, and nothing else. So yeah, but in Nigeria, they definitely have huge competitor in Spotify and Apple Music.
Okay, so if anybody has any questions, throw them in the chat. But so now I think we figured it out. We've got all these artists who are super impatient, and if they had to sit and wait 6 months to get a vinyl record pressed, it would be impossible. But now that you've got streaming and technology is making it easier to release stuff,
Yes.
People can hustle, and they can hustle fast. So what does that mean for a new artist? Like, what's it like being a new artist in Nigeria? Do they know what they're doing? Are they struggling to figure out where to release their music and what to do? Like, because it seems like you've also done this over a long period of time where you've worked with newer artists. So tell me about the artist experience at the moment in Nigeria.
I find that the young artists, the younger artists are very internet and tech savvy. I find that they are very calculative in their approach. I find that they have a deeper insight into numbers and how to not to manipulate it in a negative way, but how to work it and get the best out of it, you know. And these are the artists who stress and have sleepless nights over their releases, and they're just setting everything in motion, the content, the rollout, the this, the that, the ads, you know, bugging you for playlist support, you know, just looking for ways to put themselves out there. So I find that a lot of young artists actually think about music streaming very deeply and are very open to understanding the technology around it. And also they understand, for some, they have come to understand how long it's going to take. And that has sort of like given them patience and confidence to just do what needs to be done. You know, over time, they have seen, okay, every time I do this, this is what happens. All right, so I need to consistently do this to build. And so they just ease into the journey. But generally, I feel like in this age, the artists who are going to win are the artists who come into this knowing that it's going to be a lifelong journey. And so you might as well just lean in and sit in and get comfortable and build something, build a fan base, build a following, work on your music, because for some people, they're going to put out one song or two singles and it's going to go boom. But that is not going to be the story of majority of artists. More people are going to have to build from the ground up. So I find that it's a mentality thing where an artist needs to have that resolve and realize, okay, this is who I'm trying to be. This is what I want to do with my life. And they just lean into it and work.
So I'm thinking about, like, say, you know, because I lived in London for years. And when I started working there in the late 90s, everybody wanted to be on a record label, right? So the idea of the first company I worked at, it was very DIY, do it yourself, but people still wanted to work with labels because they felt that that was a good, you know, that support was important, and they didn't have the amount of options now. So, like, how do you view Nigerian artists' view on that? Do they want to sign to a label? Do they want to get that kind of support, or are they just looking for support wherever they can get it? Do you see what I mean? Like how it's changed, that there's so many options now. It's pretty difficult to figure out what to do.
I mean, you're right. It's not business as usual. And another thing that has changed within the streaming era is how artists view record deals and the level of importance that they attach to it. Some people are very independent minded and they're already thinking, you know what, I know what I need to do. I have a team, I have a blueprint. I just need money. I just need some funding. And if you can give me this funding, then I wouldn't need to go and have this huge arrangement with this guy who is a record company and who is going to end up owning some of my rights or all of it and all of that. You know, so it's like the distribution companies have sort of like stepped into that role to be an alternative. And this is not to demonize the record labels at all, because in the ideal situation, they actually come and help you scale, give you the budget, but also they have the structure, they have the relationships, because they are huge and they've been there for years. So when a record label or a big label are really into you, they can really move things for you because they have the might and they have the financial power, you know. But these days I find that artists are like, you know, I don't have to do that, you know. So if you can give me some of that and then also allow me go make the music that my heart yearns for, that is the ideal situation for me. I'll take this over like an elaborate big record deal. And also in a place like Nigeria, it's not hard to see why artists are not so keen on the conventional record deals anymore, because we have had some successful ones, but a lot of them didn't end well. You know, either you have a disgruntled investor who feels like they put in money and nothing came out of it, or sometimes the investor puts in money and then the artist blows up, and then for some reason they're just not there to partake of the gains, you know. Or you have the artists who feel like, oh, you just signed me and you did nothing for me, you didn't have money, you lied to me, you didn't spend on me, you didn't do nothing, you know. So we've had quite a lot of those type of stories. So now when an artist hear that they can get some funding, maybe not the kind of funding or support that a label would have given them, but something good enough for them to keep it moving without having to give out their creative control or their music or their rights, or even just the back and forth of this person who is trying to invest in your music, you know, it just feels better. and artists are warming up to that even more. But for the brilliant artists, deals are different. So you're still discerning enough to know when a record label is offering you a good deal. But also I find that things have improved also, because I remember years ago, I would struggle to find entertainment lawyers. But right now we have so many young, passionate people who are music lawyers, and they are doing amazing things, from the label sides to handling sync deals to working with artists and all of that. So generally, there's more knowledge. The artist is more knowledgeable. Their handlers are more knowledgeable, and then we have more lawyers. Like as I would always say, my biggest advice for the contract process for getting signed would be, don't leave the ambiguity aside. Let everything be clear. This is how much my project needs. In 6 months, I want this amount of money to be committed to this. These are the producers I want to work with. These are the type of videos I want to make. If in 6 months you're not able to do this, it means I should walk away. Because if you don't spell things out like that, then you just leave room for your investor or the label to just leave you on the shelf and just take their time. But going into these contracts, managers and lawyers should go there with straight points and figures too, and timelines. So that way, nobody's time is wasted. And if at some point the label hasn't done certain things, you already put it in your clause that, I'd have to walk away. So I find that there's more knowledge within this space generally. But yes, the distribution, the distributors coming in have totally revolutionized the artist record deal or record label situation. I mean, even at the highest level in Nigeria right now, that is what is playing out. Empire is possibly top 2 earners in Nigeria right now, because the biggest guys are on Empire. Olamide is on Empire, Kiss Daniel is on Empire, Fireboy is on Empire, Peru, like so many people. And that is what attracts the artists. Like, you don't have to get into this elaborate record label deal with me where I own your music indefinitely and all of that. No. I'll make money available. You want a TG or Murray video? We're going to pay for that. We're going to do all of these things, and then, find a way to recoup and support you and make you feel like you have label support, but you haven't quite penned down a conventional record label deal. So even at the highest level of Nigerian music right now, that is pretty much what is happening.
I'm getting very stressed out by the Nigerian style contract with a timeline in it, because this is the first time you've come to one of our events, but I talk about timelines all the time. And I think that's the one thing that people struggle with so much, is that they can't, people can't hold down a timeline properly. So I think it's very, very important you're saying that, but I realize I feel a bit stressed out that if I signed a contract on either side of the table, being an artist or a label or distributor, and I had to deliver results over a period of time like that, like in a certain time frame, I'd be pretty nervous. But someone actually asked a question, and they were saying, like, because I think maybe we should talk a bit about Horus and stuff. Do you all offer funds for marketing and stuff? Like, how do you, as a company, look at that kind of stuff?
Yes, we if an artist is eligible, usually our eligibility requirements are like, say, at least if an artist is able to constantly or consistently make at least $100 monthly, we consider that good enough to step in, or in other terms, anything from 25,000, 30,000 real monthly active listeners on Spotify. That way we consider that as enough listener base for us to have a fruitful partnership. So yes, we definitely offer advances, but not a lot of artists are going to be eligible. But also, we don't just wait around for when the artist is eligible. So we also, I'm a builder. I've never run away from an opportunity to start from scratch. So we are also very open to working with the artists and planning with them and strategizing with them, and just consistently putting music out and building the community up until when they're eligible for an advance, but also the hope is that, things pick up even much faster and the artist doesn't even need us for that type of financial backing.
So I actually think this is quite interesting. So you're saying, like, I'm a new artist and I need sort of like 20,000 monthly stream, like, active listeners, like all that, to get my foot in the door. Like, how do you think I should get there? Like, in Nigeria, like what are the mix of tools? What do people do? Is it playing live, or is it making videos, YouTube? Like, what do you like?
Okay. First things first, I mean, it's everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Just deploying everything in your in your arsenal. The first thing being to consistently put out music. I feel like because it's so many people putting out music or trying to make music, you need to show that you want this more than the next person. You need to be consistent with how you put out music. And I find that putting out music also, besides the obvious mathematics of it, where the more music you have out there, the more money you can earn from streaming. But I find that the more music you have out there, the better your chances of building a strong following, because one song isn't enough to make somebody a fan. So just consistently putting yourself out there, and also that balance between digital and physical, or the real world. Yes, do all that good social media stuff. As Horus, we're going to help to position you for global playlisting and all those type of things, but definitely go outside, meet with your fans, create something, build a fan base. And I find that is where artists struggle. Some people can do it without necessarily putting on a show. So just find out what works for you. Are you good with social media? Does content creation come easily for you? Lead into it. You're oftentimes just one cover or one good content away from a short viral moment that then makes other people to go check out other stuff that you have doing. But the harder route is to, think of how to build a fan base. Start your mailing list. Get a small pub, get a small venue in your neighborhood and perform once a month. Do something, just or get on IG every day and perform, but just constantly do something and understand how much powerful you are as an artist today than the people who had to do music many years ago. From the comfort of your home, if you deploy social media properly, get on TikTok, get on Instagram, you can really do something for yourself. And wake up. TikTok really is very important in music promotion today. It is not what a lot of people want to hear, but that is a powerful, important platform. So learn to figure it out. And it's okay if you can't, but just, think about social media very much, and tell stories. Some days ago, my friend did this content where he spoke about storytelling and captions. Like artists put out music and they say, run it up, and they say, stream now. And, and it's like, yo, maybe you should say a little more, so I can know the process of this music and how, what led up to this moment. Maybe that is going to make me check out your music, so just put yourself out there, be looking to do more than the next person, because it's so many people trying to make music right now, and only the focused, hardworking artists are going to build something worthwhile, I think.
So what you're saying is that you can be as much in a rush as you want, but don't act like you're in a rush. So you be in a rush behind the scenes, but be cool. But be cool with it. Because I get what you mean with that TikTok stuff, that I think like a lot of, you can't jump over that step, which is the step where people learn who you are. Yeah. Because the music is about the song, but it's also about the once people listen to the song, you need to build that connection between you as an artist and the people that are listening to it. And you can't do it by doing a video where you're pointing at a stream now button the whole time. So I really, like, it sounds obvious what you're saying, but I don't think enough people say that. It's a very good point.
Yeah.
So like, let's talk about Horus a bit then, because I was reading this article, like, when was it? We were sharing it around around our office, basically, even though we don't have an office at Beta, we all work distributed. And it was a list of all the different types of distributors and ways you can distribute your music. And it was about, it was from 2022. So there were a couple companies missing. And I'm like, this is crazy. If I was a new artist and I had to decide how I was going to distribute my music, I'd have no idea. And so your company is like, are you the first employee in all of Africa, the whole continent, or do they have someone in South Africa already?
No, nobody in Africa. I mean, Nigeria is pretty much the hotbed right now, so it makes sense. But I'm the third employee. Yeah.
Okay. So like, so how, if I've heard of, say, all the normal bigger companies, like, why, when you go and talk to artists, what do you advise them to look for? Because this is a universal problem, no matter where you are. You could be in LA, you could be in, where's Horus from? In Leicester, you could live in Leicester, you could live in London, it doesn't matter. You could live in India. You've got to decide what companies you're going to work with. And like, how do you talk to artists about that? Like, what should they be? Because they don't need to sign a record deal to get the support.
Yeah.
What do you advise artists to do?
I mean, first of all, I say rock with people who are passionate about your music, because that is very important. So I work with a lot of artists that I'm a fan of and I like what they're doing. And people who I've seen put in a lot of work even before I joined a distribution company. So as soon as I got on, it was just a matter of, wow, join me, I'm here. Come on, I see what you're doing. Let's do it better. I understand what you're trying to do. I understand the intensity and the seriousness you want around it. Don't worry, I got you. Come. So just that we are it's a company founded by musicians. A lot of my colleagues are musicians themselves. So we really understand how much of a lonely road the artist's life and the artist's journey is. And in any way possible, we're just looking to add something, add some more assistance, some more insights, some more playlist support, some more stage time, some more media opportunities, some more writing camp opportunity. Like that is our approach. Basically, anything that we can do for the artist, we are going to do for the artist, even if it's not traditionally part of what a distro should do for an artist, because ultimately, if the music does well and anything that puts the artist and the music out there comes back to have an impact on the streams, so we're not just going to end the relationship after the uploads are done or after a few playlist support. So I find that artists are looking for way more support every day, and we're looking to support them in every way possible, even if it means getting performance slots for them, or if it means getting them in writing rooms, you know, just anything, you know. So we're really up to that. I mean, down to if an artist wants to do a feature and I know the artist or I have a good relationship, I am going to make that happen. So more and more, I find that we're having to do more for the artists, you know, and just step into that big brother role, you know. Yeah.
And that leads me to what I think should be sort of the last thing we should talk about, like, and it's this idea of, I think even the talk was about the future of A&Rs, and we haven't mentioned the word A&R that much, but everything we're talking about supporting artists, that is, I guess, what A&R is. But like, you've done this job, you know, in quite a few different ways, but I'd like to just get your thoughts on that a bit more. Like, what do you think A&R is today? Like, does it exist in the way it used to, or is everybody helping with that, or does that sound ridiculous? Or like, so just sort of give me some of your thoughts, and I'd like to talk about it a bit more.
Okay, Matt, I get very excited to talk about A&R, especially in the Nigerian context, because you operate in a more advanced industry, you know, where labels have existed for hundreds of years, and the idea of the A&R is not alien to the people. Like, it's not weird when a young person in the UK or the US decides that they want to be an A&R, you know, in other people in that role and be successful at it, you know. But Nigeria is in its infancy stages of A&R, and this is a beautiful, brilliant time, because there's just this explosion of interest and enthusiasm over the A&R role and responsibility. You know, I see so many young people who say for sure, look, I'm not trying to be a music video director, I'm not trying to be a producer, I'm not trying to be a manager. I just feel like I have a unique, beautiful insight on music, and I love music, and I want to discover talents, and I want to work on rollout with talents, and I want to help sign talent and introduce new sounds and new people to the ecosystem. You know, so I find that there is more of a growing appreciation for it. And it also helps that now in Nigeria, we actually now have people who are in that role, doing that job, and earning off of it, thereby showing other people that, hey, it's possible, you should lean in and do it, you know. So, but A&R from my perspective is very different from the way you view it. In fact, I feel like Nigeria has yet to reach its golden A&R era, and we are going to get to that. Yes, honestly, yeah. So, it's still in its infancy stages. It's an interesting time, really.
Because I think, like, the way you were describing, say, someone who felt that they have a unique view on music and that they can contribute, sounds a lot like a traditional 50s, 60s American view, that where it was romanticized, that the A&R person could come in and work with the artist and help them to create, help them to develop their vision for what they are. And I think it's interesting that you bring this up, because I think that is lost in North America and the UK now, because like the A&R dude is just your or woman, pardon me, like the A&R person is just your contact at the label, the one you call to say, oh, great, it's going well, or oh, this is shit, or I need a like a dub of this, book the studio type thing. So, you know, like, I think it's exciting to hear that people that's the vision.
It
Because
is.
I think that vision is lost or has been lost in a lot of ways. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yes, it does. Like, there's so much positive change happening within the Nigerian music industry. I mean, even creative collaboration has improved greatly. We went from when people didn't used to do writing camps to now there are writing camps everywhere, every time, every month, every how, you know, from hotel rooms to apartment buildings to residential buildings. And in a lot of situations, it's the budding A&Rs who have yet to join a record label, but still want to work on their vision all the same, you know, who are putting together these camps, and beautiful things have been happening from these places. So like I said, we I mean, our industry doesn't right now have the wherewithal to hire as many people as are willing to be A&Rs, you know. So big shout out to Maven Records, easily Nigeria's biggest indigenous record company, you know. And then you have Empire, and then you have other people, you know. So you find that it's really not so many roles, you know, where you can be a conventional, where you can be a proper A&R and do these things. But a lot of people are going out of their way and living that dream all the same, just that they are not tied to a record company. So it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful time, really. Like I said, we have yet to hit our golden A&R era within the Nigerian music industry, and I think it's coming.
God, the way you articulated it sounds very exciting. So there was someone else who asked us sort of a question about artist development at Horus and stuff. And so let's maybe we should talk, because I don't really want to ask another question, because we should end right there with your beautiful description of the golden age of Nigerian A&R is just as good as it gets. But I think I should ask, like, so tell me about how you approach that kind of stuff in your job. Like, because you've mentioned that you'll do more for artists, and I think that is super important. But like, tell me about your own vision for that. In your, like, this is the first time you've been in a position where you're at a bigger company doing A&R. So to finish off, tell us a bit about how you're applying your vision of towards the future, towards a golden age of A&R.
Yes, I'm learning so much about people. I'm learning so much about artists. People are different. You know, some artists are very gifted and they're very aggressive in their push and how they put themselves out there and how hungry they are for success, you know. And so it makes them to go all out every day. They wake up and they tweet about their music, or they're looking for performance opportunities, or they're looking for somebody to do something for them, you know, or they're sending the music to radio stations, which is something that we do also at Horus, because like I said, having done music plugging for some time, I still have quite a decent amount of relationships for radio and all that. So we still send out music of our artists to the radio stations. But payola, like everywhere else in the world, is a problem here as well. So it's not like we send it out and put like huge budget behind it. No, we just send it out to the idealistic OAPs who still believe that people shouldn't have to pay for airplay, you know, and it's still a lot of those are out here. So reaching out to those kind of people. So, but
just one question: are you in the golden age of payola? Is that?
I guess so. I guess so. But also,
it comes with the territory. It comes with the territory. Sorry, continue.
But I find that the A&R role in a distribution company is very, very interesting, and I love it. Because now generally we distribute music. So I'm not supposed to come and play George. I'm not supposed to be for what's the name of this guy at Nigeria Got Nigeria Got Talent? Simon. I'm not.
Simon Cowell. Simon Cowell. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not here to play Simon Cowell or to play critic. You know, across board, we distribute music. So if the music is amazing or not so amazing, you are my client. But also, there is that other part where it is important to bring in bankable music or an artist that is capable of scaling and doing amazing things. So you have to, you balance it with, yeah, we keep it open. If you want to distribute, we're there. But there's also that part where I'm reaching out to people because of their work ethic, because of their consistency, because of the already existing relationship that we have, because I believe in their journey and I feel like it's only a matter of time before something huge happens, especially if they have good support from a company like ours or from myself, you know, and then I've just been, you know, working with great artists. And also, it's also our way of sending a message to the world that the sound of Nigeria is much wider and much greater than Afrobeats. Afrobeats is beautiful. Afrobeats has knocked the doors down, and now it's time for everybody to run in. So this is also a way to expand the taste and the options. You know, today, big shout out to my boy Nero. We put out a record by an artist on Horus Music Nero, and it's a drill song. You know, and next month, 5th of next month, Dwayne the Stoic is putting out his EP. It's alternative. And some days after, Dotty the Deity is putting out his music. It's folk and alternative. And then we have the rappers, and then we have the R&B guys who really believe in the sound and are pushing it. So it's just another beautiful way to, you know, support these artists and highlight all these other sounds that are not the sound of the day or Afrobeats. You know, so it's an interesting one, really, just having to balance, you know, delivering the service to whoever needs distribution, and also, you know, using your third eye to look at the artists who you think are onto something and supporting them on that journey.
Well, that's brilliant. Thanks so much. It was very inspirational, which is the way I like it. Because otherwise, why are we here? You know what I mean? I think but I think it's important. I think it's important. So thanks so much for all your insight. It's really great to talk to you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to throw their if you want to throw your details maybe in the chat for people, if they want to follow you, hit you up on LinkedIn, email you, why don't you do that? And yes. then we can.
I mean. Also, we didn't talk about the Listening Sessions podcast, which
yes. No, tell everybody about that. I'm sorry. No, go for it. I totally forgot.
I don't need to talk about that so much, but it will just be a part of my parting shot. So we have over 45, about 45 episodes of great insights around and stories around the music business. So if you're looking to join the music business or learn some more, you should totally listen to the Listening Sessions podcast. It's available everywhere. And also at Horus Music, we're looking to do a lot of educational programs as well. And the first one is coming up on the 26th of May in Lagos. It's a physical event, and the venue is Hotyce Institute. It's absolutely free. And here we're going to be breaking down everything concerning music distribution, best practices, all the assets you need to have, how to get yourself prepared for a release, you know, how playlisting works and all of that. So we're going to be having our friends from Audio Mac and Boomplay to join us and share insights. Yeah, it's an exciting time. Thank you so much. I see, I have to give a shout out to this person. I see Mayuyuka Counter. That's a great guy. I've actually never met him before, but we're friends on LinkedIn, and he's been very helpful. And I think he works for Platoon, and Platoon are also part of the guys who are helping to redefine the space in Nigeria, just like Empire and all the other distros. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, it's brilliant, and sorry I forgot about the podcast or whatever. But Jamie threw a link in the chat, and if anybody else wants to throw links in, or if again you want to put your contacts so people can get a hold of you, why don't you do that now? And then otherwise, I'll say goodbye to everyone. And thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you next month.
I'm always happy to talk and listen, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody, for coming. It was brilliant as usual.